Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. You probably thought you got rid of me last week when the build series finished, but no, I'm still here, I'm still around. This is a bit of a Q&A, just to answer some of the common questions I got over the last sort of 5-6 episodes of the build. So yeah, we'll jump straight in. Cheers. Yeah, one of the first questions I got was any tips for people starting out on building their own DIY caravan. Lots of resources online. I'd say do a lot of research as much as you can. Some really good websites out there with a lot of content. I think the design phase of the build is probably the most important, so put as much effort into that as you possibly can. I had mine on SketchUp, drawn up down to millimetre accuracy pretty much from the beginning. I think I spent 2 months doing that, in and out of design, and it changed like 15 times, and then I'd find a piece of equipment that I wanted to incorporate into the build, and I get the dimensions of that and it wouldn't quite fit in a certain spot that I needed to, so I'd change the layout of the van slightly to accommodate it, etc, etc. And that went on for a couple of months until I got to a point where I was really happy. And then when you're ordering stuff, figure out lead times on things and put together a decent program for the build is my advice, because you will hit a massive roadblock if you get to a certain stage of the build, put the order in for whatever it is, and then they tell you, oh, I haven't got that for 6 or 8 weeks. I had a couple of those that I knew were going to be long lead times. The jockey wheel, at the time, Boss were 6 or 8 weeks out, so I had to get that order in because I had to drill holes in the chassis where it was going to be mounted. And I had to do that before I welded that section in. So all these things were little minor, seem minor in the grand scheme of stuff, but if that had stopped me putting it in, I wouldn't have been able to paint the chassis, wouldn't have been able to move on the suspension mounting like it. Yeah, so little things like that. I knew that the airhead composting toilet was, I think because of COVID, they were out 17 or 18 weeks. So that had to go in, like when I was designing it, I just committed to the fact I was going to build this van, put an order in for that before I'd even placed an order for the steel or done anything else. So yeah, preparation's key, get the design as close as you can, and you're set up for success at that point. Kate asked about the towability of the van now that it's fully operational and all the weights are finalised and all the stuff's inside. Probably saw in that last episode, a fair bit of time and effort went into trying to get the tow ball weight right before the trip. I was stressing all the way through this build, probably didn't come through in the process, but in the episodes, but I thought I'd put the axle too far forward, which meant I was going to have, not the axle, the independent suspension and wheels too far forward to get enough ball weight. So yeah, all the way through I was like, oh, what have I done? I'm going to end up with no ball weight and this thing's going to be swinging all over the road when I drive down the freeway. But no, it was great. I had to think about where I put stuff, where the heavy stuff goes. I obviously do that with every caravan, but I managed to get the ball weight up and over 10% for the first couple of trips easily. And she tows like a dream. I've never had any wobble. I've had to have some extreme braking situations with crazy people on the road, and been through a few potholes and on some dirt and some sketchy gravel here and there, and it's all, yeah, it's done well. I've never had a problem. And in fact, it feels heavy occasionally with the Ranger off the start, but when you're up and running, she flies along, and I've actually been guilty of forgetting I was towing it, which is not good. Yeah, but if I had my time over, I probably would move the wheel and axle position back 100 mils, if I'm honest, just to take the stress out of all that. Also, I'm carrying an outboard motor and a boat, which weighs about 100 kilos combined, and when I take those out, what happens with tow ball weight and the arrangement in the van, I'm just going to have to be careful about that, because they're fairly, the motor sitting in the front box behind me is putting a lot of weight down on that tow ball, which is helping things a lot. So yeah, when that comes out, what do? I have to shift stuff around and figure it out. I get asked all the time about what suppliers I've used for different components throughout the build. The philosophy I used with this was try to go local, small Aussie manufacturers where I could. And surprisingly, it was, wasn't that hard. There is a lot of Aussie manufacturers supplying the caravan industry in Australia, which is good. So I'd say 80% of the people I used, I think, would be small family-owned type businesses in Australia, which is great. I'll list everyone down in the description below that supplied the main components, the ones I get asked about the most. I'll quickly just run through some of them as well. The panels, you would have seen the episodes. I visited Transform RV. They're in Melbourne, northwest Melbourne, Somerton. Vince and the crew down there. Again, small family business. Really good quality product and good price point, and turn things around really quickly. So check that crew out. Aussie Toolboxes did the front toolbox. David's over in southeast Melbourne. Again, small business, very flexible, able to basically build anything you want out of aluminium for your toolbox. So give that crew a call if you're going down that path of designing your own. Terraloom were the lighting suppliers. I've still got a bit of Terraloom gear to fit off. You'll probably see that in some future modification episodes. But yeah, the light bars that I put in and a few other bits and bobs came from those guys. And I imagine they source overseas, but they're an Aussie company supplying locally. I use Surdex for the chassis steel. I don't know who owns them or where they're from, but they're a national business. There's one just down the road from me, literally a kilometre away. So they got my business locally, which they were good quality steel from what I can tell. Couple mates supplied the drawbar stuff, so DO35 chains, chain mounts, also the toe ball scales that I've used in a few episodes. They're up in Brizzy, I think, or somewhere in Queensland. Again, they've got a really good range on their website, so check them out. All of the Victron gear and the solar panels and other bits and bobs in the 12-volt system all came through my Sparky. He's just a local Sparky, Salt Electrical here in Geelong. They've got a 12-volt specialist in there, Aaron, who did a really good job of all that. And because they can source wholesale, their price point was actually better than I could do off the shelf. So if I priced everything, and with the discounts that he was able to achieve from suppliers, I actually got his labour for free, if you work it out, which is fantastic, because I would never have done a job of the quality that it turned out with. I would never have got there by myself. So that was good. And I think he gets a lot of his gear from Solar for RVs. They're based in Melbourne. They have the Caleb battery and all of that Victron gear and the panels on the roof. They've all got all that on their website, so you can check them out. They're a pretty good price point, and I think they're a small Aussie company as well, so you go and check those guys out. What else did I buy? The hot water unit, all of the plumbing fittings, the shower outlets, the one you can see on my shoulder there, external, they all came from OzJ Hot Water Solutions. Go and check them out. It's good quality gear. I'll do a bit of I'll run through the hot water system in a minute, because I get a lot of questions about that, so that'll come up in the episode soon. Jay, small Aussie company, OzJ. Jay King's the owner there. Just, really good, locally designed kit, and so far so good with that. What else have I got in the build? Another thing is the Thermalite flooring. I get asked about that a lot, and the Purelite panels that I used inside for the internal cabinetry and stuff. That came, and the ensuite door as well, actually came from Bruce. He's local. He runs, or has a expedition truck building company called West Coast RVs. I don't think they've got a website up and running just yet, so you won't be able to Google that, but he is the Australian distributor for the Thermalite flooring. He's got a few other products there as well. If you search up Avcom, which is one of his other businesses, you'll be able to get in contact with him there to be able to source that stuff. I just absolutely coincidentally happened upon that when I was searching Google one day, and lo and behold, it was just down the road, which was great. Who else have I got? That step was from Super Cheap Auto. It's really good. When they first brought them out, they had a sale on them, so I grabbed one. I think it was about $80, but it's really good and I like it a lot. Really. Suspension. A lot of people ask about that.
obviously, when I was putting it in right back at the start of the series, but it's one of those hidden gems that's forgotten about. So that's Tough Ride from Teco. Nice to see a bit of dirt on their mudguards. That's been going really well, no dramas at all really. It's a really cool ride, and the best bit about it is the amount of times I've just turned up at campsites now and toggled the levers and leveled the van up. Yeah, I wouldn't go without it ever again. Fantastic.
Just doing laps of the van to try and figure out stuff I bought because I couldn't remember for the that section, but just been getting onto this gear actually. You probably haven't seen it because it wasn't part of the build, but AOS they're called, Swags and Bags. I'll put their website up. They've got really good quality canvas gear. So these are the clear top bags that go in my pantry and will be really useful, I reckon. I've been using King's gear actually, which has its place in the market, I'm sure, but not the best quality. This stuff's really good, really stiff sides, sits up tall, and really strong zips. So yeah, I'll be testing that out over the coming trips. What else have I got? I won't show you the kitchen because there's a modification episode coming up where you'll see what I've done in here. It's a big surprise. It's not that great, but anyway, that's coming up. But things like the Road Chef Big Bertha oven, the microwave, Breville microwave, the induction cooktop, all that sort of gear, I just sourced online. I just searched around until I could find the cheapest price, and Boss Jockey Wheel, based in Sydney, those guys, really serious bit of kit, designed in Australia. Lots of different types of feet, wheels, options. They also do powered wind down steadies you can hit with a drill, and actually advertised to be able to lift the side of your van up as like a jack situation, not just your standard wind down steady, which is cool. So check them out. Last and not least, and I don't recommend this place because it's had way too much of my business. Bunnings! Don't go to Bunnings. Unless you want to snag. It's Saturday morning in the shed, and so Friday night was last night, strangely, and that's when episode 20 went live. So I'm getting loads of comments floating through on that already, which is great, and on the Facebook groups and that where I posted the links. A lot of people saying, what are we going to do on Friday night now? The Perpetual Transient's finished his caravan. I never fear there's going to be a lot more content coming up. I've already done a mods episode. I'm going to do lots more mods episodes because there's lots of mods I want to do. They're never ending. People talk to me about the van and what, how good does it feel to be finished? And it's never going to be finished. I don't think. I've got so many ideas. I'm going to put a bike rack on the front. I've got to put jerry can holders on the front. I've got to finish the interior trims and other bits and bobs inside because it's not quite done in there yet. And as I go on a trip, I think of something like external shower tent I want to put on the back, or I don't know, there's hundreds of ideas. I've got to put a diesel heater in. I've got it in a box sitting in the house, and I haven't even pulled it out of it and had a look at. So that's got to go in. Constantly improving and manoeuvring. So that'll feature heavily in the future. I've done a couple of trips with the van already. I've filmed those. My ability to film outdoors is not as good as in this controlled environment in a shed where I've got no wind and other stuff. So bear with me on that. Ability to use a drone's not great just yet. And as I said, outside it's a bit more of a challenging environment to create content, so I'll get better with that. I've got a few ideas in the mix there. I'm going to do some collaborations soon, hopefully with some suppliers about gear, stuff that I'm going to fit to the van, and some affiliations that I'm going to try and create. I've set up a website. I don't know if it's live by the time this episode goes out. I'll put it on the screen here. I've got some merch. I've had a lot of people ask me about the logo. They really like it, the red tail black cockatoo feathers, and I've had a few people ask me about merch and whether I'm going to do t-shirts and stuff like that, and I wasn't really sure about it, to be honest, but I just sat down one day and started up one on Shopify actually, and just played with their online platform and sorted it out surprisingly easily. So that'll be up and running. I'm a complete novice with all that sort of stuff, and I'm not sure how good it looks or what it'll be like functionality wise. Probably get on there and get yourself a bargain because I probably screwed something up. But I want to keep doing this stuff. I want to keep doing the YouTube. I want to keep making episodes for people to watch, but also conscious that it doesn't make any money at all. I mentioned that I'd monetized it on a previous episode, I think. So YouTube pays me for the episodes now, but it's virtually nothing. Like, it literally is nothing. I think it was about episode 15, I hit 1,000 subscribers, and I also achieved, or more than 1,000 at that point, but I achieved the 4,000 watch hours, which is what you need to get monetized by YouTube. And then they start paying you for the ads you watch on my videos. They pay me a small amount. So it's been monetized for the 5 episodes, I think, since 15 to 20 roughly was the rough window of episodes where it started to be monetized. I've had nearly 50,000 views on the channel, over 50,000 views on the channel now, and I think at the last look, YouTube revenue was $143. So that paid for the first tank of juice to get it out to the campsite, and that was it. So yeah, I thought I'd just set up a website, put some merch on there because people had asked. If you want to support the channel at all, jump on there and have a look. If anything there tickles your fancy, feel free to grab it. If it's not there by the time this episode goes live, it won't be far off. I've toyed with the idea of setting up Patreons and other things like that for supporting the channel, but I'm not sure about that just yet. We'll see how that goes later on. Maybe that's something I need to do. And I know that YouTube, I haven't looked at this properly yet, but YouTube has like a membership thing where you can sign up as a member of Perpetual Transient and contribute a small sum towards the channel to help and support it and grow it. But I haven't looked into that. I haven't set it up. Maybe I will in the future. But for now, check out the website if it's there when it does go live. Direction of the channel. I've got another DIY little build coming up. Not a caravan, but something similar. And I'll be doing little things like, I've got a couple of ideas around some metal work that I want to do, a little fire pit thing, a rocket stove, and a few other bits and pieces, which I'll probably film. So there'll be sort of odds and sods like that. The trips I go on, obviously, modifications, little things I do around the shed, and another DIY project with probably 2 or 3 episodes that will be. And I'll show you that when I get to it. It's probably going to be sometime next year. But yeah, that went on for a long time. Get a lot of questions about the Osj little hot water unit, the 6 litre 12 volt aqueous that I put in the van. I've given it a good run now. Went on a bit of a trip, which you'll see coming up on the channel soon. It was soggy and cold pretty much the whole time, so it was nice to have a hot shower during the day. 6 litres is good, so at full temperature it is cranking. Like, the water that comes out of there is really hot. Got to be a bit careful to temper it actually out of the shower. So no dramas there. It holds its temperature really well as well. I've noticed once you get it up to temp, it stays there without much draw. Doesn't really kick in and out, so it's well insulated from what I can tell. If I had my time again, I might, and I may actually swap it out, I'm not sure, but 6 litres was for 2 people on this trip. 6 litre shower, it's really only enough to just, wash all the important bits, and it's not really stand under the nice hot water for a while and enjoy the shower. It's more about just getting the job done and getting out of there. I think the 10 litre would probably improve that a little bit, and bearing in mind it was freezing cold in midwinter, so in summer, when you've got ambient temperature up a bit higher, you can dial back that hot water a little bit in the flow. You probably get a longer shower as well, and you probably don't really necessarily need it that hot anyway. So overall I'm pretty happy with it, performing well. I do get a lot of questions around what does it draw, what sort of battery usage and so on. I might just actually do a bit of a test because I haven't really measured it. I think it pulls about 20 amps and it takes about an hour to warm from cold, but once it gets up to temperature, then it doesn't obviously need to until you've had a shower and drain it, and then it fills with cold water again and has to go through the process. So I reckon it's about 20 amps out of your battery, which doesn't really make a huge difference for me. The solar knocks that back in pretty quickly. So we'll flicker on and we'll give it a bit of a test. So you can see on the screen there, the DC system, bottom left-hand corner, there's 16 watts coming out of the system now. I haven't turned the hot water on yet. That 16 watts will be the LED light that I've just put on in the storage compartment, and the composting toilet fan operation. So yeah, it's about 16 watts. So we'll take 16 watts off the total once I go and crank it. I'll just go and turn it on now. So we'll just put it on full. So it's just a matter of turning this dial. The orange light comes on. So I'll just crank it all the way around so that's full. All right, we'll switch her on and see what she's pulling. 205 watts. So that's with it on full. It's running 205. So, well, we had 16 at the beginning before, so let's call it 190. So it's pulling 190 watts by itself. If you divide that by 12 volt, you end up at about 16, we'll call it 16 amps. So it pulls about 16 amps. It takes about an hour to completely heat up, maybe a little bit longer, depending on the water temperature when you start. So yeah, let's call it 16 to 18 sort of amps roughly to get it done, which is pretty good, I think. We'll call it a day there on the episode. Thanks for dialing in. Hope you got something out of that. Join back in next week. We're going to be out on the lake, setting up the True Kit 400 Discovery and getting it out and giving it a bit of a whirl for the first time. So see you then. Cheerio for now.